So I'm going to be talking about, as I was told a second ago, intersection collision avoidance safety program, or ICASP, with a small I. Apple has not come after me yet. I'm sure they're going to soon, but we'll see how far I can get away with that. And we're coming virtually from Lakeland, Florida. Red light running near misses. I think we talked about that a little bit a moment ago. Let me show you what I'm talking about when I say a near miss. This is the intersection of Memorial Boulevard and Florida Avenue in Lakeland. Let's see if I can get this to work. Red, 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 red. Look at all that red. Yeah. So this goes on, folks, every single day, all day long. In my town, in your town, if you've got a traffic light system, this is happening all day long. Just imagine that pickup truck. Let's say the pickup truck was traveling, I don't know, 1 mile an hour faster, and the perpendicular traffic was driving a mile an hour faster or slower, depending on the intersection. Can you imagine how catastrophic that would have been? 1 second difference would have changed this, where everybody moves on like nothing happened, near miss, to total absolute catastrophe. In the bottom right, you could see that white SUV. There's a person sort of right in front. That was, as you saw, a bicyclist who dismounted and became a pedestrian. And you could imagine, not only would it have been a catastrophe from a motor vehicle to motor vehicle, major crash. The pedestrian would have been hurt, probably killed, I would argue, or as a bicyclist, because maybe it would have happened when he was still a bicyclist. All in all, it would have been an absolute catastrophe because of 1 second, one change in time. And you saw how much red time was on there. I mean, it was red for, gosh, almost 6-7 seconds. And yet that person insisted on running through. So we got some issues in Lakeland, of course, but certainly around the country and in Florida. Let's see if I could move this forward. There we go. Well, let me tell you my story, if you don't mind, just for a moment. So there I am. There's Angelo in his former Honda Fit. I'm heading southbound on Massachusetts Avenue in Lakeland, and that's George Jenkins Boulevard across. And now to the left, you could see I call it Angelo's nemesis. I really don't mean that, because I love truck drivers. I think they're probably the safest drivers in America. They're trained, they're professional, they're courteous. The vast majority of them are. Well, once in a while, not so much. So here's what happened. Here I am. I'm originally stopped at a red light. Now it's showing green right now. And I knew it was going to be a while, so I put my vehicle in park, and my employee badge was on the passenger seat, and it had slipped onto the floor, and that's why I put it in the park, so I could pick it up, put it back on the seat, because I knew for sure I'd forget it by the time I got to the office. Well, by the time I went down to pick it up, put it on the seat, somebody beat me politely from behind because the light turned green. So what are we talking now? 1.5 seconds of that time. I acknowledge the beep. I go from park to drive. What's that? Another second, 1.5 seconds. Take my foot off the brake, hit the gas. So we're probably talking anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds, depending how you count it. I can't guarantee it, but it's in that order of 3 to 5 seconds. And I proceed. After all, I've got a 3 to 5 second green light right now. I'm set to go. Well, wait a minute, Angelo, not so fast. So as you can see by the next slide, I wish I had a video of this, I don't. So that truck plowed through, and I just happened to have my brakes done the week before. Brand new, spanking brand new brakes. Slammed on the brakes because I noticed, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, the reason why I went so abruptly, you might say, southbound on the 4 or 5 seconds of green was because to my left there was a truck that was sort of blocking my vision to the, in that case, it'd be to the east. So I couldn't see that truck was plowing through westbound, my nemesis there. And had I seen that, I probably would have backed off, right? I would have said, hey, no. I know you got a lot of green time. Let this guy go, or gal, whoever it was, and let it happen. You're fine. Well, I didn't see that. Plus the beep, plus the 45 seconds of green, I went for it. Slammed on my perfectly brand new brakes. And I'm not exaggerating. I literally stopped about 1 meter, about 3 feet. The front of my little old Honda Fit was about 3 feet or 1 meter away from the side of that truck. I have to I'm not exaggerating. I think they were traveling about 55 to 60 miles an hour because they were a blur. They were a total blur passing by my vehicle. What was weird about it is that I just went on like nothing happened. It was really strange. It was surreal to get from that stop position, minding my own business, picking up my employee badge, going into drive, moving forward on a full, absolute emerald green ball signal, and being 1 meter away from not being able to do this presentation. Because I'm sure if I'd have been a little quicker on the draw, if instead of 4 or 5 seconds, I'd have proceeded at 2 to 3 seconds, I'd probably not be here today. Because you know how kinetic energy works, right? Speed and mass, speed squared. So it's very, very dangerous. So this is something that's really between that dream of 25 years ago and this personal incident that occurred. It's been something that's been on my mind for a long time. And it's led me to understand a little bit more of the classical definition of disruptive innovation. I'm sure you've heard that. It's kind of like the buzz term right now, but really it's an old term, 1995 term. A gentleman named Clayton Christensen kind of coined it in 1995. And when he talked about classical disruptive innovation, he meant it in the sense of actual talking about accessibility and affordability for everyone. It wasn't about the competition and making the competition go away. It wasn't about that. It was about providing accessibility and affordability for everyone. That means invent in a disruptive way so that your costs go way down, the affordability goes way up, and the accessibility goes way up so that everyone can participate in this type of disruptive innovation. So I think that's pretty exciting in terms of that opportunity. This talk will be kind of touching upon that because I think what we're going to be talking about today is kind of a disruptive innovation in the sense that we're starting at the kind of hardware level and hope one day that it does go into the electronic age in the future. Let's see how this shapes up. How does this program work? Well, as I said a moment ago, it's basically to prevent red light running by predicting the red light running vehicle in the first place, by verifying it, that it really does meet our criteria, and then and only then to extend the all red phase and or delay the perpendicular green phase, resume normal operations, and partner. City of Lakeland, FDOT, District 1 is our partner. Iteris, of course, is our partner in this, and Econolite with our Cobalt controllers. It's really none of this could have happened without any one component of this partnership. So the current operation is we only have them at 4 test sites where we have video cameras for red light running cameras right now. Metadata only, unfortunately, and I'll talk about that in a minute. 4 sites being studied. You may or may not know Lakeland that well, but these are the 4 intersections. I'll be talking a little bit about North Crystal Lake Drive and US 98 is my case study, the green one there. That's off of Bartow Road, down at the far right of the screen. So what does this data look like? I mean, we're collecting tons of data, so much that it makes your head spin, but we try to make some good sense out of it. So what does it look like? Well, let me go back one bit there. So all those dots represent, this is only northbound and southbound at this one particular intersection. These are dots of motor vehicles driving through that intersection, in this case with the 4.8 seconds of yellow time. Now you might say, and that's hundreds, look at them all, that's just hundreds in that 1 day period. And you might say, well, hey, Angelo, get over yourself, it's yellow, come on, that's what yellow's for. Yellow is just kind of like, I don't know, like it's kind of like a mild green or something like that. It's green gone yellow or something like that. So get over yourself, it's fine, it's fine. Okay, all right, I'll buy that. Well, then we get into, as most people know, the all red phase. In this case, it's only 1 second because there's a railroad crossing. And so District 1 wants us to keep a low all red phase there in case the train goes by. Now look at those dots. Those dots are now in the 1 second all red phase. Still okay, because everybody stopped, right? All directions are stopped. Hopefully everybody's paying attention and nobody proceeds because it's all red. So even though all those dots folks have gone through, hopefully nobody gets hurt. Well, then there's the perpendicular green is on segment. Look at those dots. Now think of it, folks. The all red has finished. It's done. The 1 second is done. And in other cases, it's 2 seconds. Some cases, it's 4 seconds. At Memorial and Boulevard, I think it's 3 seconds. So all that time is gone. And now the perpendicular green is on. Now what do you do? Look at that one example at 7:11 a.m., 1.6 seconds after the green has gone on. You could argue that, hey, because of what I did, remember I got delayed. I got my foot off the gas, off the brake onto the gas. So hey, don't worry about it. It's fine. You got plenty of time. I don't think so, because you saw that near miss that I showed you earlier. That near miss, again, could have been total catastrophic damage and injury, maybe even fatalities for possibly 1 second of change. That's kind of what we're talking about. That's what the margin is here, probably 1 second of change. So we did some further analysis. This is a 180-day study in 2019, and we're doing more of it in 2020, although the pandemic has put a little bit of a damper on that in terms of volume, so that's another story. That's for another day. So if you look at the situation, you look at all drivers, and we say, hey, almost 98% of motorists drive on the green. Yeah, that's pretty good. 1.9% on yellow, for a total of 99.71% green and yellow. Angelo, be quiet, it's okay. Look at that, almost 100% of motorists are behaving, or reasonably behaving with the yellow at least. So what's the problem? Well, kind of this. Because if you look at the remainder, we got 0.18% on red, and then 0.12% beyond all red. Now that's not so bad if your intersection's has a capacity, or not a capacity, but a usage of, say, I don't know, 500 vehicles a day, 1,000 vehicles a day. Still, that's pretty bad at 0.12%. When you've got several thousands and thousands of vehicles per day, the 0.12% adds up real fast. And here's how it kind of looks. Oh, by the way, even gold bullion's only 99.99% pure. We're almost at gold bullion in terms of the 99.71%. So let's dig in a little deeper and look at the non-green drivers. So again, yellow 1.9%. In this case, it was 788 vehicles per day. That's just north-south, not east-west, just north-south only. 0.18% on red, 74 per day. And then the perpendicular is green for 48 vehicles per day. This is, folks, this is one little old intersection in little old Lakeland, 110,000 population. I don't know how many thousands of intersections there are in Florida. It's got to be, I don't know, gosh, 20, 30, 40,000 intersections. Who knows? Somebody out there knows the right number. It's a big number. Think of that number times 48 per day in a town of 110,000 people, happening all day long, nonstop, every single day. 48. Now, there are degrees, of course, thank goodness. Maybe one of those 48, say number 17, did it at, maybe 0.1 seconds beyond all red. and you could, maybe there's enough safety valve in there to be okay. You saw that truck at 6-7 seconds. That's pretty scary, and that's happening all day long. So what are we doing about it? Well, partnered, like I said, with the OT, Iteris, and Econolite to see if we could solve this problem in the field electronically / mechanically. So there's the Cobalt controller in the cabinet, and it couples with, in this case, the Iteris vector sensor in the field. Notice that it looks like the old PowerPoint projector. Remember those? Nobody does that anymore. We're all doing Zoom and GoToMeetings now. So it looks like a PowerPoint projector, and basically it subs as a regular vehicle sensor anyway. This has the added feature of doing the computations for us for the red light running campaign. So basically there it is. Sensor activates the algorithm when the vehicle is picked up, sends an electronic message to the controller. And then as you can see in this case, the red light is on, and the extension occurs with the test. It tests for true. Is this a real case? And what I'm getting by that is that we're gonna be learning the gradient, shall we say, lack of a better term, in terms of, well, gosh, we can't really wait, say, 14 seconds, although we have had 14-second all red operations, believe it or not. That's just too long. People will go crazy out there. On the other hand, you can't do it too soon with only 1 second. So you've got to find that sweet spot. We think it's somewhere between 2.5 and maybe 4 or 5 seconds, somewhere in there. And hence why I talk about that true red light run extension. And then we run it, and then the 3 seconds occurs, and then of course, then and only then, the perpendicular green comes on. So that sequence of operations goes on every time consistently. I've forgotten how many times per millisecond, doing that math, and then eventually finding true, and then sending the signal for the extension. So I talked about this location. This is, and I think Anita talked a little bit about the dilemma zone earlier, and she mentioned that might be something we'd be talking about, and it kind of is in a sense. This is what we're doing is actually the opposite of the dilemma zone. Dilemma zone, what it does, it senses a vehicle that is probably not going to make the green light, and so what it does is extends the green light a few seconds. The issue with that, of course, is you don't even know that. So it's still, in my view, dilemma, because you still don't know that the green's extended. You don't know how that when's yellow going to show up. So that's kind of interesting. That's for another day. So this is the way it's sort of set up in terms of the sensors are set up. These are not in the ground. These are electronic data points or measurement points for which the calculations are done with the sensors measuring the speed and the distance to the stop bar and to those trigger points. That's kind of how it works. A little bit over my head. Thank goodness we have Iteris staff that they tell me all this stuff, and I usually have a glazed look because I never understand it. But man, they are good. They know exactly what they're doing. So I really appreciate the Iteris folks. So again, back to our setup, and here's what's interesting is that I started doing a little more research on this, and come to find out, look at that, 2012 METCD, Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It's kind of like the traffic engineer's Bible, if you will. And reading it a little bit more, come to find out that in option 11, 4D26, the duration of red clearance interval may be extended. Sounds familiar, right? Upon the detection of a vehicle that is predicted, sounds familiar, to violate the red signal indication. So folks, all this time, since at least 2012, I don't know when this particular option was written. For all I know, it could have been, I don't know, 2005 or some time back. I don't know the exact date of its writing. For sure, since 2012, we've had this ability all this time. And that may explain why Bay County took a shot at it, to give it a shot. So it's kind of interesting. I don't want to make it sound like, we're inventing something here. It's already been invented. We're just trying to make it real in the ground. And to the best of my knowledge, we can't think of any other jurisdiction, certainly in Florida. We think that a district in Texas is managing this system as well. So I'll be interested to see their data. And again, like I say, it's basically ICASP. This is we're not going rogue here or anything like that. This is just really SOP when you think about it. So I'm going to wrap it up pretty quickly here. So basically, from what we are discerning here from the perspective of safety. So we got the red light crash study at 4 locations. We've got 6 months of data, and I consider that even old data because that was last year, and I'm looking forward to seeing the new data for 2020 now that vehicle volumes have been increasing significantly once again. 48 beyond the all red phase, green is on. Every single day, one load intersection, you do the math, it adds up to a lot every single day. I don't want to scare people. I hope that when people leave their office today, they don't only think about this factor. I hope you don't, but it's pretty scary. ICASP is basically MUTCD compliant. You saw that earlier in the explanation that we researched that. It's there, it's ready to go. And the dilemma zone is already in place. In fact, we have some dilemma zone operations right here in District 1. And although I didn't show you this particular one, this intersection, there's another intersection in District 1, also at US 98 South, where this is kind of interesting application of quote unquote ICASP. And that is that there's a bicycle lane, an east-west bicycle lane at US 98. And what they found in the past was that oftentimes the bicyclist might not make it through by the time the signal went red. So what they did was they extended the all red phase, just like we want to do, so that the bicyclist would have more time within the all red phase. Now, it doesn't mean that they should take advantage of it, and that's an issue that we need to deal with, and I'm sure some folks might have that on their mind. Are we promoting bad behavior? And I'd be happy to discuss that if people have a question along that line. So that's a real live example right now that's in District 1, our district, today as we speak. So we have some recommendations that we want to do. Basically, we're asking TURL, or the FDOT Traffic Engineering Research Laboratory in Tallahassee, to allow us to actually do the extension. We got our fingers crossed. We think that's imminent. That approval is hopefully imminent, so that we not only collect data, which we have reams of data, and actually now run the extension when it happens. It's kind of challenging to know that you have a solution that hopefully will save lives and reduce crashes, and I can't implement it. But I understand we need to cross our T's and dot our I's. We get that, and we're willing to wait to get it right. So we would commit to monitoring that extension very closely for at least 60 days, probably more, and then report the findings to DOT, and then expand incrementally to other intersections with their approval. I mentioned earlier that the 4 locations are only right now at locations where we have red light running cameras for violations. And the reason why we did that, and I should have mentioned this earlier, and I apologize, is that we wanted to have 2 things. One, video coverage, if you will, of the numerical incident. So if we have that near miss occurring numerically, we have the video backup to prove that it really did happen. So we have a kind of a bit of a reliability check. At the same time, that if we are approved to do the extension, it kind of puts away that notion of rewarding bad behavior, because if people begin to learn that the red is being extended, because they will, people are pretty smart out there, you'd be surprised, that they will learn that the extension could occur, then they're going to get a fine with the red light cameras. Now, eventually we're going to run out of cameras, and eventually we're going to expand to the system, almost system-wide, maybe half or to the whole system. That's a problem I'm willing to have in the future. Another interesting adaptation of this It works fine on mast arms. The other issue is that a lot of cities like Lakeland have span wire traffic signals and concrete strain poles instead of steel. So that's a bit of an issue because we need precision in terms of these sensors operating properly. So we're hoping that we'll be able to identify appropriate equipment to modify the intersection so we could use these sensors, or come up with a different sensor application that doesn't rely on the span wire. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to solve that problem. Right now, I'd be grateful to just be able to do the regular mast arm intersections and go from there. Would be my dream at this point. I'll take it, and then we'll worry about other applications later. I just wanted to share with you, this is another potential application. And again, we have a similar kind of commitment to FDOT that we had with the mast arms. So with that, I just wanted to run through it relatively quickly, and I think that is my last slide. Oh, next steps. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I'm just saying, let's use smart technology right now. We have that ability, again, to predict, verify, extend, resume, and most importantly, above all, save lives. And with that, I'm going to conclude the presentation.